Hey yogi friends, Kit Kat here and welcome to today's tutorial. We are going to be doing stretching for the low back and also for the hips. Charlie, come here. So this is Charlie. She's been renamed the Chicken Chaser today because she ran after a chicken and yeah, she caught it. And here in Bali, I have to pay the neighbours $5 because she murdered their chicken. And I'm vegetarian, so it's not like I could take that chicken and do something with it. So you're my little chicken murderer, aren't you? You naughty little instinctual animal. Off you go. Go and do something else. I couldn't even look at her this morning. I was quite upset, but I can't be too upset because it's her natural instinct. Anywho, I love her most of the time. Let's get back to our tutorial, low back and hip flexors. We're going to start by coming down onto the butt. We're going to come down all the way onto the elbows and we're going to bring our feet roughly about hip width apart and we're going to bring them nice and close into the glutes. And you'll notice you can feel this little bit of an arch through the back and you can sink the low back down. And as you inhale, lifting it up a little bit, so connecting in with the breath there, and exhale, drawing the low back down towards the earth. And so you can actually hold it here. You might notice this particular series of stretches resembles cat-cow, just with different gravitational forces at work. So as you inhale, you can lift the heart space. If you're feeling courageous, you can drop the head back and look beyond the mat. Inhale, bring the chin back into the chest, and as you exhale, draw that low back down towards the mat. You can give it a little bit of a hold here, and feel free to find a little bit of wriggle room here. You might even try some circles in that space and going back in the other direction, and you'll find, or you'll start to find, those areas of tightness in the low back, and you might have already found them, like I fully know where mine are. Bringing that low back down with the exhale breath and finding that little bit of a stretch. Now, adding on, if you want to go a little bit further into the QL and a little bit of a kidney stretch, you can slowly, gently rock the knees from right to left or left to right. And this isn't a massive stretch. This is little stretches here. We're still drawing the belly down towards the spine, pressing the low back into the earth as we move in this space. And just go slowly and gently. And eventually you'll kind of find a spot where, oh yeah, that's my spot right there. And you can move it over in the other direction and go, oh, where is it? Don't need it that much on this side today. And keep in mind that both sides will be different on any given day. So fantastic stretches if you are at your desk all day, even if you're sitting in Sukhasana at your desk, or if you ride a scooter, or doing anything at all really, but particularly if you're here in Bali riding a scooter or sitting at your desk, great stretches for that. Number 2 on the hot hits list this morning is we're going to come into half shoelace. So this is where we start to stretch a little bit into the hips, the low back, and we're also going to get a little bit of action into the hamstring here. So my foot is perpendicular to the mat. I'm going to slide that all the way over to the other side and cross this leg over the top, and I'm resting on the knife edge of the foot here. Take an inhale breath. Exhale and just lean on into that stretch. So I can already feel this moving into my low back and into my hamstring. Depending on your level of flexibility, you're going to feel it at different points. You might feel a little closer to the knee or further up in towards the glutes. And just breathe in and out in this space. Try and breathe in through the nose and extend the exhale out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And that element of the surrender, the element of the exhale is all about surrender. So letting go of that tension, because that tension really does not serve us one little bit. So we're going to take another round of breath here, in through the nose, getting all that beautiful nitric oxide out through the mouth, and release. Rolling back up to seated. Take an inhale breath, arms come up and over the head. And this time we're going to take a twist to the crossed over leg side, whichever side that might be for you, and gazing over the shoulder. And you can really use this arm as a lever into the leg to give you a little bit more. When you inhale, you want to feel the length coming into the spine. And as you exhale, deepen that twist. And it might just be little micro movements. And the last part of this stretch is actually to bring the head to the furthest point and gaze beyond, looking over the shoulder. One more round of breath here. Small movements are good. Finding your way into that stretch so we never get stuck in a shape. Inhale and come back to center. My chicken chaser's having a nap. We're going to swap legs over. So cross that left leg all the way over. Right leg comes over the top and we're on the knife edge of the foot. Take an inhale breath, reach up nice and high. And as you exhale, drop the hands down. Just pop them in front or wherever's comfortable. If it's back here, if you need a little bit more support, that's all good. Stretching into the hip, the glutes, the hamstring, and into the low back. 2 more breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. 1 more. Now I am moving through these stretches this morning, these shapes. Inhale, arms up and over the head. We're taking the twist over to the other side, but you can feel free to stay as long as you like in these shapes. So if you're really feeling that you're getting some release and relief out of these shapes, feel free to stay for as long as you like. There are no rules around the length of time you stay in. 1 more inhale breath here, lengthening up through the spine and feeling that last part of the twist is the head moving over the shoulder and gazing beyond. Inhale and back to center. We're coming into Sukhasana, easy seated pose. And I'm just going to move my butt cheeks out of the way because that kind of feels good. A little bit of a rock and roll there. Give my shoulders a little bit of a roll. Back in the other direction because that feels good. And I'm just going to start to walk the hands forward in my Sukhasana. And I'm going to use the pressure of the forearms into the earth and feeling like I want to slide my butt back towards the back of the wall. And I'm going to feel that rounding coming into the spine again. Dropping the head down and gazing towards the belly. Inhale. And this time we want to feel like we are pressing the forearms in, but we're trying to drag ourselves forward so we get a little bit more length in that back body with these 2 stretches. Exhale, press the floor away, press the booty into the earth, around through the back body. Inhale, lengthen up and away. So these should feel quite good, these variations of cat-cow, and one might feel better on any given day than the other. So feel free to explore what is working for you. Inhale, lengthen, and then we're going to walk the hands back, turn it around and come up onto the knees and find our way into actual cat-cow. So I really want the hands planted underneath the elbows, underneath the shoulders here, giving me the best support. Feet flat to the floor, knees roughly about hip width apart. And we want to feel like we're actually pressing the shins into the earth. We're going to inhale and draw the belly down towards the earth. And as we exhale, press and roll. So we're getting more of a whole spine stretch here. Inhale, belly goes down. Exhale, press and roll. 1 more round. Inhale, the belly goes down. Exhale, press and roll, lifting up through the shoulders, creating space between the scapula. We're just going to gently walk the knees together, bring the toes together, sit back onto the hips, slide the hands down and around and come into child's pose. So this variation of child's pose, where you have the body folded over the top of the legs, is really going to give you more of a stretch, lengthening through breaths there, as many as you need or like. So our next stretch, we're going to come into a wide-legged child's pose. And we're going to walk the hands forward, and you'll notice the difference in this stretch is this is actually a little bit more of a back bend. Well, it is a back bend as opposed to the rounding through the back that we get in our balasana, the original version there. Drawing the chin down to the mat, pressing the hands into the earth and sending the hips back to the heels. We are stretching and opening into the hips, which should feel quite good. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a direction change here. My toes are touching at the back. My knees are as wide as I can take them. Don't overextend in that space. You want to feel comfortable discomfort. You don't want to be stressing yourself out in the shape. In through the nose, out through the mouth with the breath. And again, you can stay for as little or as long as you like. Stretch here. We're simply going to take the right leg out to the right and lean onto the forearms, and we're stretching on the inside of the thigh here, which is the adductor muscle. So if this stretch feels a little bit intense on the knee, you can actually sit in Sukhasana with the leg forward. And it will be a slightly different stretch, so if you can get here and play in this space, it's going to feel good. Oh, I love this stretch. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. I could get easily distracted and just stay in this particular space for a really long time, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to move it forward a little bit here. I'm going to walk the hands back, take the hand to the bent leg, and come up into a variation of gate pose, stretching right down through the side body and feeling that length coming into that extended leg. Exhale, coming back to center, touching the toes, shifting over to the other side, take the leg out, elbows down to the earth, and here we are stretching the adductor on the other side. Taking a few breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Getting all that beautiful nitric oxide that's produced in our paranasal sinuses that helps reoxygenate our body, and the body needs as much beautiful fresh oxygen in there as it can get. Make sure our brains and livers, kidneys, all of our organs, hearts and lungs are functioning well. This is why I teach breath as the first pillar of practice. Taking the left hand over to the left, rising up a little bit, feeling that extension coming into the side body, reaching away and finding as much length through that extended leg as possible. From here, we're going to drop back down. It's an easy move into tabletop, tucking the toes and lifting the hips, coming into downward facing dog. So if downward dog is still a really big challenge for you, you can move to these next stretches from tabletop or from downward facing dog, yogi's choice. So we're not going to do massive movements here. We're just going to do a little bend with that right leg, and we're going to step it forward and drop the knee down at the same time. So it might take a little bit of coordinating to get there, but you'll be okay. So uncurling the toe at the back and finding your balance there with the help of the wall, obviously. So I'm fairly square at this point. My knee is over my ankle. And you'll see that I'm going to lunge forward into that. I'm stretching into my left hip flexor here, but I'm fairly square, shoulders over the waist, over the hips. So what I want to do is start to press forward in there, but I want to keep all of this upper body stacked and organized here, because what happens on occasion is we drop into this space thinking that we're stretching here, but what we're really doing is getting a massive back bend. I want to take that out of the equation for the moment and just isolate that stretch into the hips. So you can put the hands on the hips, take an inhale breath, lengthen through the back body, tuck the chin into the throat and just press into that stretch. Now you want to feel like that back shin is actually active and pressing into the floor, and this front foot is pressing into the floor as well. You can feel as you draw the belly in towards the spine that you're going to find more of a stretch through the hip flexor in that back leg. So take another 2 breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Now, you might want to go a little bit lower here, and that is perfectly okay. Just keep thinking about drawing the belly in towards the spine, lengthening through the back body, keeping the shoulders over the waist, over the hips, and seeing if you can intensify that stretch into the back leg. Taking another 2 breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, and out through the mouth. We're coming into our psoas stretch. I'm going to use the same arm as the leg, and I'm really going to press down into the thigh. Sweep the opposite arm up and over, and continue that sensation of pressing the back shin into the earth, the front foot into the mat. Lift up and lengthen through the left side body as you reach up and over towards the front of the room. So in other words, away from the back leg. You're going to start to feel this stretch in the psoas. Try and keep that stacking there, evening the hips up, lengthening through the body. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, see if you can drop it down a little bit lower and continue that stretch, reaching up and over. 1 more breath here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And bring both hands down towards the earth. So that stretch actually starts in Anjane Asana, and we're going to move to half Hanumanasana, which is half splits. So you are welcome to leave the toes uncurled, or you can tuck the toes, and wherever you need your support today, use the hands to support you in this stretch. So stretching into the hamstrings, you can come down and sit the hips onto the heel there. You can drop the body down towards the leg, walk the hands as far forward as you need them, whatever feels good for you. You may even like to use blocks either side to support yourself in this shape. Take another 2 rounds of breath here. This stretch can be fairly intense. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. 1 more round. Each breath, each exhale is a surrender into the shape. Draw back through Anjaneyasana. Plant the hands onto the earth, tuck the back toe, lift that knee and step back into down dog or straight into tabletop, whichever is working for you today. And we're going to lift the left leg and come in and do those stretches on the other side. So just stepping it forward to the best of your ability. Drop the back knee down. We're coming into Anjaneyasana. We're going to uncurl the toes. Start to press that shin into the earth. Engage the core. Lift up. Stacking the shoulders over the waist, over the hips. I'm going to press that front foot into the earth, back shin into the earth, and I'm going to start to feel that stretch in the right hip flexor as I drop into the shape. Drawing the belly into the spine and finding a little bit of length through the back body. Exhale, drop down into that space. Inhale, belly to spine. Exhale, stretching into that hip flexor. So you can see we don't have to go far to find that stretch. And if you start in this space, as you work deeper and deeper into the stretch, that becomes more accessible each time you come back into the shape. So just 2 more breaths here, my friends. We're nearly there. Inhale, exhale, last round. In through the nose and out through the mouth. We are coming into our we're going to do our, our psoas stretch first. So the psoas actually runs from our T12 in our spine, wraps around the body and has its insertion into the top of the femur. Here we have two of them. They are our fight or fight muscle. So if you do spend time in that state of consistently doing and being, sometimes we need to find a little bit of a reprieve. So bringing the forearm of the same arm as leg into that leg, and you can feel a little bit of pressure happening in there. Keep that tension here, pressing the back shin into the earth, pressing that front foot and feeling that stretch in that right leg. Inhale up and over. We want to reach as high in the sky as we can, all the way in an arc, up and over. Keep pressing into that front thigh and feeling that stretch, side body, front body into the hips. Keep drawing belly to spine. Find that stretch through the hip flexor and keep on reaching up and over. 2 more breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, 1 more just for good measure because I like it. Come back through center, bring both hands down to the mat. We're coming into half Hanumanasana. Tuck those back toes, readjust the legs if you need to, and sink the hips back towards the heels, lengthening through the back body. Inhale, and as you exhale, draw the belly down towards the thigh and relax into this space. You can start to gaze past the toes, finding a little bit more length in the spine. 2 more breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Should feel quite good. Inhale and come back. Plant both hands down. Now, if you're coming back to downward facing dog, I invite you to do that. Or if you're coming back into tabletop, just a little bit of a lift with the knee and pop both knees back down. And we can come all the way into Baddha Konasana, or butterfly pose. So, I get a little cramp in my foot there, interesting. So this can be quite a challenging shape for some of us, me included. So it takes a little bit of work, but we've done a little bit of opening into the hips, so it should feel a little bit more user-friendly right about now. So what I want to do is use the knife edge of the foot here. That cramp, that can go away. It's just normal things happening to normal people, getting cramps while they're doing videos. We're going to press both of the soles of the feet together. We want that knife edge of the foot also feeling like it's applying a little bit of pressure to the earth. Interlace the fingers and try the uncomfortable way. So you've got one way that feels good, one way that feels very awkward. And we want to make like a hat on the toes here. As we inhale, we're going to lengthen through the back body. And as you do that, you're going to feel the sit bones on the earth. Now, my feet aren't wedged right up in my groin. You can have them making kind of a diamond shape. As you start this pose or this shape, I want you to, lovely stretching there, Charlie, thank you. I want you to feel comfortable, like the pose or the shape is accessible for you, and then you can work on bringing the heels a little bit closer or different aspects of the shape. So interlace the fingers and the hands become like a little hat around the toes there. We're going to lengthen through the back body. Press the knife edge of the feet into the earth. And the action, we've already stretched the adductor on the inside of the thigh. So the action now is to activate the adductor to draw the knees down towards the earth. Now, this takes a moment or two, or maybe a couple of goes to turn those synapses on so you create the neural pathways that allow those muscles to activate. So don't get too chuzzy bananas or angry at yourself or not practice ahimsa if you don't get it on the first go. So inhale, lengthen through the back body, and as you exhale, I want you to feel like you're pressing the sit bones into the earth, opening up through the legs here and drawing the knees down towards the earth. And we're going to do this for another 4 rounds of breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel free to move if you need to, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. 1 more round, in through the nose, and out through the mouth. Now, eventually what happens if you keep pressing is you actually feel the sit bones start to move and allow the hips to open in that shape. And that is a fabulous feeling. And you know that there's been a little bit of a shift or a change when that starts to happen. So release out of that shape. Give yourself a little bit of a hug here. We're reversing the action, bringing the knees together and just giving ourselves a little bit of a hug. You can walk the toes back and drop into that variation of cat stretch here, so you're getting a little bit more into that low back. So our last shape for this particular practice this morning is Malasana. I'm going to plant feet on either side here and rock myself up into Malasana. So this is a great stretch for the low back. We're also stretching into the hips, but because we've opened up in that space, it should feel more accessible right now. So if this shape is a challenge for you, one of the little tricks that I share with my students is to simply roll the mat, turn your Malasana around so you've got a little bit more support, however much support you need under the heels. And that's going to help make that shape a little bit more accessible for you. You can use blocks or a towel. I also have a very handy wall here today, so I can back that right up and I can find a little bit of support with the wall, which also feels really nice if you've got some lower back stuff going on. You're not going to feel as challenged in that space. So you're lovingly supporting yourself in this shape. So giving yourself the stretch and finding a little peace in the space as well, and just breathing into whatever's going on for you. The connection to breath is what's essential in any practice, actually, in your life. Altogether, it will change everything. So if you're in Malasana in the center, wherever you are on your mat, just finding your way into that space, whatever feels good, letting the hands come forward, and you can again come into that kind of cat stretch where you're rounding the back through, dropping the tailbone down to the earth, and you can inhale and find a little bit more balance in your Malasana, lengthening through the back body. Take another 2 rounds of breath here. That whole chicken episode must have really exhausted that dog today. Exhale and release the hands down to the earth behind you, and you can drop your hips down to the earth and come back to Sukhasana, which is where we started. Actually, it was probably our second shape on the mat today. So this is a really beautiful time to try your hand at meditation. So if you're not a super meditator right now, and I certainly wasn't when I started out, but because you've released some of that tension in the hips and the low back, this is a perfect opportunity to sit and find some stillness. So just allowing the body to ground and connect down to the earth. A really great thing to do here is to elevate the hips a little bit so that they do sit above the knees, and you can use props underneath the knees here if you still have tension in the hips, just to take a little bit of the pressure off so you can actually really relax in there, because the whole point of that stretching is so that we can release the tensions in the body so that we can sit longer in meditation. Otherwise it just shows up as an annoyance and a disturbance, and it really becomes an obstacle to us being able to sit and find that stillness. So all we're going to do is just rest the hands in universal mudra, so nothing too fancy. Sit back into the hips, allow ourselves to feel that grounded connection. And you can just start off with a few rounds of breath, just coming back into that breath connection. And as you exhale, just start to close the eyes down and find yourself in a place of stillness. Bringing the focus onto the breath is really beautiful. Acknowledging your inhale and exhale, allowing the hips to ground and connect with the earth. The crown of the head drawing up towards the sky, that place of infinite possibility, the universe. Now, beautiful breath, keeping us grounded and connected between those two realms, keeping us in the present moment. Staying in this place of meditation and finding stillness is why we make the shapes. So sit for as long as you can, as long as you like, and see if you can find your place of connection to the heart center, your creative genius. My yogi friends, namaste, and thank you for being with me in this tutorial today. I genuinely hope that helps with some hip stretching and any low back discomfort that you might have, and I will see you in our next tutorial. Namaste. Charlie, you're a little chicken chaser. You're a little chicken chaser.